All right, we are live. Welcome to this week's Bitcoin Weekly Roundtable. We got Miles from the Bitcoin for Everyone podcast. We got Dan from Bitcoin Reactions, Ralph from Nurse Hodel, and then John from My Favorite Thing About Bitcoin. We're going to go over some of the news this week and some general Bitcoin topics. So, how are we feeling?
Good.
Doing good, man.
Good, man.
Good to be
Yeah.
back.
Good, man. Thanks.
1 week hiatus.
Yeah, thanks, Josh, for hosting and doing the heavy lifting of being the moderator.
Oh, yeah. All right, so let's get into the first thing pulled up here, which is the stage. So we had kind of some beef, I guess, between Solana and Cardano. Solana co-founder says Cardano's plan to convert some ADA into Bitcoin is so dumb. So what do we think about this?
Can anyone just tell me what the difference between Solana and Cardano is? Because if this was a long time ago, I would be able to tell you about Litecoin and like one of the other shit coins because I was into like shit coins back then. But I've been so long out of it that I basically don't know what these things are. So if someone's able to summarize first, because to me they're the same. I didn't even know what Cardano even is. So
I don't know what Cardano does, to be honest with you. I mean, I know Solana is
I don't know either.
used for so now Solana is used for like to create meme coins, right? But I have no idea what Cardano is used for. I have no clue.
I think Cardano, their tagline used to be something around the lines of like NFTs are first class citizens. Like they each get their own UTXO. It's stupid. Functionally, they're the exact same. They're both shit coins. There's no real point in either of them. I think Solana uses, I think, a hybrid EVM and something else and Rust-based model to like write smart contracts. Cardano does something different, but I mean, smart contracts are for the most part fairly dumb too. I mean, there's a little bit of use case, but not nearly to the extent that anyone says. So it's just shit coins calling out shit coins. That's what it really is.
Shitcoin on shitcoin crime. You gotta love it. It's fun to. It's like that meme, where we can just sit back, where the Bitcoiners are like smoke. What's the guy doing? Like smoking a joint in the corner while the people are fighting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what Cardano does, and I'm proud to say I don't know what it does. I know that Safety Namus used to call Ethereum the mother asshole from which shitcoins spring, but I think Solana has kind of taken over that mantle from ETH because you can mint meme coins even faster on Solana, I guess, and pump and dump people even faster than you could on ETH. So I know that that's what Solana does. I don't know what Cardano does, but clearly Cardano has once and for all finally come around to what Bitcoin has known all along, that the only use for a shitcoin is to dump it to use it to buy Bitcoin.
So in that sense, what Charles Hodgkinson is doing, the founder of Cardano, is actually really smart. He successfully scammed a lot of people out of their money by selling them Cardano, which is, trending towards worthless and will probably be very worthless very soon. And he's buying a whole bunch of Bitcoin with it. And to the extent and the amount of Cardano that and Solana that both of these two have been able to sell is incredibly like an incredible high number. So, I hate siding with, a complete scam artist like Charles, who not only did he found Cardano, he was also one of the original founders of Ethereum. Fun fact. But I hate siding with him, but he's doing the right thing in buying Bitcoin with all of his stolen earnings, I guess you could say. Or it's not ethical, but from a value standpoint, Bitcoin's going to go up a lot more than Cardano in the future. So he's kind of doing the right thing. What do you guys think?
No, he's doing the right thing, honestly. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, well, hopefully he's just tipped his hand now finally and basically said, like, it's one of the common criticisms we say of XRP, right? Which is Ripple has never bought XRP. Ripple only sells XRP. that should tell you what Ripple thinks how much Ripple thinks of the value of XRP. So if Cardano the founder of Cardano doesn't even want to hold Cardano and wants to buy Bitcoin, that should tell you all you need to know about the value of Cardano.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's tipped his hand and shot himself in the foot, and people can once and for all realize that it's just a scam. But yeah, I agree with you. Technically, he's doing the unethical but smart thing, which is get rid of it and get Bitcoin instead. Sorry, Ralph, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I was gonna say the same thing. I mean, he's doing the right thing for himself. I mean, whatever asset he has is crap. You have to buy the right asset. And I was just looking at the price of Cardano, and I was expecting it to like dump from a news like this. Like if the founder doesn't want to own his own coin, what's the point of holding Cardano at this point? You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. They're still doing all right so far. I mean, down 13% for the week. They're doing okay. I don't know.
Yeah, and I
down
think
13%, not too bad for a shit.
Yeah, not too bad.
in the UK, there used to be this jewelry brand called H. Samuel, and it was always made out to be the sort of affordable jewelry in the UK. It's kind of like, I don't know, just like cheap jewelry, but it was kind of gold and it was kind of diamonds, and it boomed. It was a huge chain. But then about 12 years ago, the CEO of the company was being interviewed, and he's obviously extremely wealthy, like the CEO of these guys. And in the interview, someone said to him, "Oh, does your wife shop at H. Samuel?" He said, "Oh, no, of course not. I mean, awful. I mean, we would never buy our jewelry there." Said something like that. And as a result of that, the whole business just absolutely died. And everybody said, "Why you don't?" Feels similar. Like really, everybody holding these coins should be thinking, this is actually shit. Like, why would I buy the crap in this shop, which is effectively what they're doing, if the owners are not interested in it at all? They think it's crap.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I think that the people that bought Cardano probably didn't think too heavily about that in the future. They'll probably be able to make up some reason in their head, but hopefully this is the beginning of a as quick as possible death for Cardano as possible, because it's just taking people's money. And hopefully it's the end for Solana too.
And I think with the success of the Bitcoin Lightning Network, we're seeing a lot of these use cases for these altcoins kind of disappear, because they used to have like this like kind of leg up, you could say, like in the reasoning that like you could say that altcoins allow for like you to build applications on top of them. But you can see even just like looking through the mempool, like we still have empty blocks. Like Bitcoin scaling is not a problem right now. We don't like two back-to-back, like almost empty blocks. And I think that's a testament to how powerful the Lightning Network is. And you can build apps on top of it. And I think the use case for these coins is, if it wasn't zero before, then it's surely is now.
Yeah, two dead technologies that will be forgotten in a decade. Yeah.
Like, do you guys think that I know that people are still creating a boatload of meme coins. Do you think that Solana probably has I'm thinking that it has a longer lifeline compared to most of the other altcoins because of that? What's your opinion about that one?
Solana is one of like the most established altcoins, so it's going to die the slowest probably out of all the others, or one of the slowest. But one of the things that we're seeing this year, or in this cycle, if it's still following the same cycle, is that in the past two cycles there were huge altcoin gains, right? We had Litecoin made it like all-time highs, we had Ethereum made 2 all-time highs, Ripple was doing good. We had big things like Polkadot, Solana, Cardano, all of these names. And there was a big jump in 2020, in 2017, and then another big jump in 2021. And this year in 2025, we're not seeing new all-time highs for any of these meme coins. I think the general public of, general society has pretty much figured out that these things are worthless. These things are scams. And while they're figuring out that alt season is canceled, they're also figuring out that Bitcoin is here to stay. And now there's just a lot more schemes and a lot more pressure to buy as much Bitcoin as possible. And kind of everyone's out trying to do it.
Do we want
Altcoin
to?
season's canceled, man. It's not going to happen this year. And they're finally coming to grips with it. If you actually see them on Twitter, they're actually like freaking out, like, what's going on? Why is it? And some of them are realizing like, oh, I guess their only thing to do is to buy Bitcoin and be boring. And the other thing that's happening is Bitcoin. This cycle's like, altcoins is Bitcoin treasury companies and these other big things that are actually built on top of Bitcoin or leveraging Bitcoin instead. So I think that's another reason why they're killing the altcoin season this time around. The Bitcoin equities and stuff are the sort of meme coin or the altcoin of this cycle.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm not sure everyone on this call would agree with that, but I think there's definitely two sides to this. There's the people that are really in love with Bitcoin treasury companies, and then there's the people that think that Bitcoin treasury companies are the new altcoins. And I think we'll figure out, over the next few years, which one is actually true. But it's interesting to think about what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it is true, right? Like altcoins were people's way of moving up the risk curve, like ahead of Bitcoin, which is now taking the place by Bitcoin treasury companies. But the difference is that one has a solid foundation on Bitcoin, and the others are just vaporware, basically.
I mean, yeah, like if any of these Bitcoin treasury companies have Bitcoin, they will be valuable, right? They will have an underlying asset that is worth what at least or likely right around whatever the Bitcoin underlying it is worth. But I think, at least in my opinion, and I've made a video about this, and I know Josh and Ralph, you guys can talk about your perspective, but I think that the risk of Bitcoin treasury companies is not will they go to zero? It's will the MNAV fall to 1 or less than 1? So, and if that does, then the holders will lose a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, they're not ETFs, right? They're operating companies, so they trade at a multiple because of their ability to acquire more Bitcoin. So if they were just an ETF, then yeah, they would trade at a 1 MNAV.
That's the thing, though. Nothing like this has been done before. That's the thing. So it's kind of hard to like be like. I mean, we can speculate all we want, but it's kind of like we will see. I guess we don't know. I have no idea.
Did we want to hit XRP too? Because I know we got a comment.
Yeah, give this one to
cross-border
Dan.
payments. Cross-border payments.
Dan, go ahead, man. Please, Dan. Just let's end this debate once and for all.
XRP?
Yes, please.
Oh, it's trash.
What about the cross-border payments, Dan?
It's
XRP,
decentralized. Come on.
Here's something good that I'll speak highly of XRP for one thing, about one specific topic. They beat Cardano in buying Bitcoin really, really early. The founders of Ripple have been public about owning a lot of Bitcoin and that they're big investors in it. So they, just like Charles from Cardano, they sold a lot of Ripple, bought Bitcoin with it. Charles is doing the same, sold a lot of Cardano, bought a lot of Bitcoin with it, and they're going to be rich forever. So good for them for being able to scam the general public. How many of you guys have ever owned XRP, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I did.
Surprisingly,
I had in like 2021 for a little bit.
I somehow never have, actually. I mean, I've had Solana, I've had Ethereum, I've had Polygon, I've had a lot of things, but somehow, no.
Okay, good for you, Ralph.
I had it when it was Ripple, like 11 years ago or something, or not 10 years ago. But I had all the shit coins, man. Yeah, I was early to shitcoining, man. I was early.
John, did you go through a phase like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I probably bought it in like 2014 or something, right? Like that was when it was like there was no difference in my head between like BTC, XRP, LTC, whatever, any of these things. They were all the same thing, and it was like, in a Reddit threads, like what's the next thing, whatever, right? Like had like a brief moment of just like buying random things and basically being an idiot who thought like basically the unit bias thing of like the lower the price of the thing is, the more room it has to run, and then it's like not knowing anything about anything, right? Like I kind of like discovered it in 2014, rediscovered Bitcoin in 2018, and then really got it in 2020 or 2021, right? Like kind of this, not really getting it for a while kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a classic Bitcoin affinity scam. So what's crazy is that we have a Bitcoin podcast that basically just rips on Ripple, and they successfully scammed 4 out of the 5 of us, everyone except for Ralph. So good job, Ralph. You should get an award for that. But,
Nah, man, I still got scammed.
but whenever people are coming in new to these things, they never educate themselves. That includes me too, because I bought it in 2017, I think, late 2017, and we all just get scammed. We all just get rug pulls. And
Yep.
I think when you go through those rug pulls, at least for me, it turned me into like the diehard Bitcoin only, like stay as toxic as possible. So I feel like I love to be the classic toxic Bitcoiner, but I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
I wonder whether actually it's like I totally what John was saying. I was just like checking everything out, like everything was the same, but I wasn't like sold to anything. What I was sold to was traditional financial education, which was once you make a profit, you should diversify into other assets. And I thought I was smart by diversifying into other digital assets. And that was what I was thinking more. I wasn't like, I believe in XRP. I was just buying like a bunch of the other ones, taking some of my Bitcoin profit and buying. And I think that for me has pervaded a lot of my thoughts around what you do with profit. And now I think going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, what I realize more is you go down all these other rabbit holes. And one of them is if you're onto a winning horse, you ride that horse to the exit, to the end. You don't like jump off and think, oh, this one's getting tired. I should jump on one of the other horses now and see if they'll do any better. And that for me actually is what ruined me into shitcoining, rather than thinking they were better technologies than Bitcoin. I didn't know what was better. But yeah, I wonder if anyone else sort of feels like that is, diversify your assets the whole time is the thing I hear.
For me, it was like this. It was almost the same thing, like because I thought every other crop coin was gonna do the same thing that Bitcoin did. So I was like, you know what? If I bought this one, if it's 5 cents, maybe it's gonna be, $20,000, whatever price Bitcoin was back then. So I think that was like my mentality. I was like, oh yes, I found the next Bitcoin, and then I realized, oh shit, yeah, that's not the way it works. Yeah.
There is no next Bitcoin, or the next Bitcoin is Bitcoin.
Yep.
Yeah. And now people maybe are beginning to realize that, because I don't know, Josh, maybe you could pull up like the Bitcoin dominance chart. But for me, this is always the chart that I've looked at to see like how well Bitcoin is doing. And the sooner Bitcoin gets to like 100%, the happier I'll be. So that's for me like the big metric. Like I don't even care about the price, because we all know the price is going to go up, whether it's $100,000, 150, 200,000, whatever, it doesn't matter. But when all the other ones go to zero and Bitcoin stays valuable, then at that point everyone will kind of be like, XRP, Cardano, who even cares about those? It's just Bitcoin all the way.
The Bitcoin dominance chart is the best, because it's like watching. It's just watching the life get sucked out of the shitcoiner's souls, like as it goes up, and you just like they're just watching it, like going like, no.
You guys seen the chart about like I think I sent it in the group, the prices, like how different currencies, the prices of different currencies compared to the US dollar. That's basically how Bitcoin is compared, like how the other altcoins are compared to Bitcoin. Basically, they all gonna eventually go to zero.
Yeah, it's like the dollar milkshake versus the Bitcoin milkshake.
Yeah.
It's been just steadily climbing here.
Are you guys familiar with the dollar milkshake theory? Is
Yeah.
that like knowledge for everyone?
Yeah, it's there might be more to it than because to me it just sounds like a very simple, like one of those things where you're like, oh, do we need a theory to describe this? Like it's basically the theory that the dollar is better than all the other fiat currencies, and over time and as there's more and more crises, the dollar will suck up more and more liquidity from all these other fiat currencies. I'm sure I'm like way oversimplifying it, but that's basically it, right?
Yeah, that's if I were grading your answer and I was a teacher, I would give you an A+. That's perfect.
And we have a whole theory to describe this phenomenon, which seems very, very obvious. But yeah, it's the same thing we all think about Bitcoin. Like, of course, yeah, like over time, this dominance, Bitcoin sucks up more and more of all of the entire crypto market cap.
Yeah, and then it's not only it's not only sucking up the crypto market cap, it's sucking up the dollar market cap, the yen market cap, the real estate market cap, the stock market cap. And I mean, if you're holding Bitcoin, you're going to do really well. And if you're not,
where's the milkshake come into play? I've heard of the theory. I just don't know the story.
Like, why is it called the milkshake?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Maybe like a black hole would have been better, just constantly sucking up like everything around it. Maybe there's like a milkshake expert on the chat that
that's just so funny because in my head it's because of There Will Be Blood, but maybe that has nothing to do with it. You know that movie, right, where he's like, Daniel Day-Lewis, I drink your milkshake, I drink it up. You guys know that?
Maybe that's it, and that's a great seed. That's a great seed. Do you know? Can you recite any more lines from that movie?
No, that's all I got.
Yeah. So no, I think you're right. I think you're actually right. It's because he's sucking up the other guy's oil. So he's sucking up his milkshake. The dollar is sucking up everyone else's value. Okay. I think way to good job, John, for figuring that out.
I don't even know if that's the right answer. It's just like in my head, that's what it is.
I was thinking like milkshakes like twirl around or something like that, but I think your answer makes more sense.
So kind of closing the door on XRP, just had like a couple more thoughts on it. And I just feel bad for these XRP holders. Like I see like stuff on TikTok, and I don't know what goes on TikTok, but there's like no Bitcoin content on TikTok. I don't know if any of you have noticed the same thing. I don't know if they're like censoring it or something, but it's like all XRP. It's all XRP people over there, and I just feel bad for them because they've been fed this storyline of why XRP is better than Bitcoin and how it's like this great decentralized thing that's going to change the world. And man, it's just not going to end well for these people.
Yeah, they're in a classic prisoner's dilemma right now. They need to sell before everyone else does, or else they lose.
And I agree that I do, well, I don't feel bad for them because they kind of tend to be a-holes, but I'm actually not convinced there are any real XRP. Like, it's all bots and paid shills, and I don't think there really is anybody else who actually believes in XRP. Like, there might be 5% of the people holding it who are like XRP, who like actually believe the crap that's Ripple's spewing about it in the marketing campaigns. But the rest of it's just bots. And that's the number one thing they've done better is just bots and paying shills, to like flood TikTok with XRP content. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know if there's even any legitimacy to it. Yeah.
I actually have a friend and a nurse friend who actually, I remember arguing with him about this, but he actually truly believes in XRP. Like, I'm gonna try to see if I can find the messages, but like it was kind of
get him on the live stream.
No, for real.
I'm down.
Wait, hold on. Let me see if I can find this thing. But
I'd be
yeah,
so
you guys
down
can
to have
see
an
it.
XRP shill on here.
One time I was at the airport. This is a true story. So one time I was at the airport and there was a guy sitting in the corner, like really distressed and talking really loudly on his cell phone that he just lost $500,000 in XRP. And so I know for a fact that some people, at least one guy in the airport, I think it was the Cleveland airport that I was in, is big into XRP, or at least was. He lost $500,000.
Not anymore. He's not.
Yeah.
Like, how'd he lose it? He just
I didn't ask.
Cross-border payments, man. There's those cross-border payments.
I was like secretly like paying attention to him like from a little bit far away.
Yeah.
He was just talking much louder than he should have been, and like he was almost like to the point where he was about to cry. But yeah, that's what happens if you buy XRP. You end up crying in the back of the Cleveland airport. So
I don't know, man. I think maybe he was trying to run a scam on you. Like he was wanting you to.
Yeah.
He thought you were gonna come up and be like, "Oh, can I help you?" And then he was going back, "Yeah, send me an XRP and I'll send you 2 back."
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone actually ever fell for those scams. I remember those. Those were big back in the day.
I didn't.
Text messages.
Probably.
Oh, you found it, Ralph?
I found him. Oh yeah, this is good actually. So I think so. He sent me the video of Jack Dorsey that said that Bitcoin. What was that one? Oh yeah, when Jack Dorsey said that, if Bitcoin fails as medium of exchange, it will fail as a store of value and all of that. And then it was like XRP outperformed Bitcoin in several key areas. It's highly scalable, handling 1,500 transactions per second. What else? With settlement within 3 to 5 seconds. Oh, Bitcoin is susceptible to 51% attacks. China currently holds 60% of the mining power. What else? Yeah, on and
I guess
on and
XRP
on.
is technically not susceptible to a 51% attack because it's already 100% centralized to begin with. So.
Hey.
Ralph,
So yeah.
here's a question. Think what's the date that somebody sent that to you, and how much has?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
And so the 2 questions are: 1, when did somebody send you that text, and 2, how much value in relation to Bitcoin has Ripple lost since then?
That was January this year, January 26th. Let's see. And how much it has lost? I'm gonna need to do some research on that one.
I think one of the funniest things about XRP is the fact that they claim it's decentralized, but like you can be a node, but like to become a node, the XRP like executives or whoever controls it, like they have to approve you as a node. What with Bitcoin, just anyone can become a node. So I just think it's funny to claim it's decentralized when a centralized authority has to approve that you can be a node in the network.
I never understood this decentralized thing. Like, how did they get to that? Like, how is it decentralized?
It's called Dino, decentralized in name only, I think is like the scam. So everyone, like back when blockchain and decentralization were the key buzzwords, everyone just said blockchain, decentralization, blockchain, decentralization. And it didn't matter that it wasn't decentralized, and it didn't matter that it was a blockchain or not. It just, they said it, and as soon as people heard those 2 words, they were willing to buy it and give them a lot of money. And then Brad Garlinghouse and the other Ripple execs took all that money that they made and bought Bitcoin with it. So yeah, it's just Dino, decentralized in name only.
All right, we can move on to something a little cooler here. Ohio House Bill 116 passed the House with bipartisan support. Basically, well, so I saw one piece of news that was saying that a bill was passed through the House to eliminate capital gains tax for Bitcoin on transactions $200 or less. As an Ohio native, I'm super excited about this, that potentially we can go to Steak and Shake, buy a burger, and not be taxed on it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I love this bill. So what are the details? It's just no capital gains on this?
Yeah, I think like it contains some other stuff. Wait, can I expand this? Oh, it's gonna take me out. Yeah, so it protects. Oh, did I have to switch the tab? Here we go. Protects self-custody, safeguards mining and running nodes, and taxes on Bitcoin payments under $200. Positions Ohio as a national leader in digital assets.
Yeah. So tell me what you guys think, but for me, this is more bullish than any state or even the country buying Bitcoin. Getting rid of capital gains tax is, I think, like the most optimum thing that the government can do to help Bitcoin. Agree or disagree? I'd love to hear your guys' opinion.
Agree.
100% agree.
Miles, you're muted.
Just to be clear, is that no capital gains on Bitcoin at all, or just on small payments?
Yeah, only payments are under $200.
So you can just go around spending 100, 200, 100, 200 out of your gains.
Yeah, and it's per transaction, not like total. So really cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's not law yet, but hopefully it will be soon.
Do we know what the chances of it becoming law are?
I'm not sure.
The only thing that, and this is way in the weeds and I don't know the answer, is the difference between at the state level and the federal level. Because I don't know if Ohio, right, they could pay, say, okay, oh, there's no state taxes on it, on making Bitcoin payments. That doesn't get rid of federal capital gains taxes on it, I don't think. So I don't know the answer to that. Maybe Ohio can do that for a de minimis thing, or they can do that state by state at a certain level. But either way, Dan, I agree with you. Basically, the limiting capital gains and starting with like a de minimis exception, which is like ideally it would be like under 1,000 or whatever. But starting with that is 100% like the thing we should like beyond the like Bitcoin strategic reserve and all this other stuff. Like the capital gains thing is the thing we should be shouting about the loudest for sure, because that's the thing that by far propels Bitcoin as money and medium of exchange adoption, is being able to actually use it, for transactions without the government saying, oh no, you have to pay taxes on just buying something, which is just ridiculous. So I agree. That's like basically the number one thing we should kind of like be fighting for, that would help adoption for sure, but also just like move us in the right direction.
John, if you were if you were the dictator of the United States, what would be the 3 top things that you would do to help Bitcoin? Like 3 laws you would enact.
I don't know, man. I'd have to give it some more thought to give a really thoughtful answer. But the number one would be like, no capital gains tax on Bitcoin at all. But I think that's too hard of a thing right now, because if Bitcoin was the only investment asset in the whole country that didn't have capital gains, like obviously everybody would buy it immediately, because they know, it's immediately becomes by far the best investment asset over anything else if you don't have to pay any taxes at all. So the realistic one would be starting with the de minimis exception of like you can make payments in Bitcoin and not have to make transactions in Bitcoin and not have to pay capital gains taxes on them. That would be a huge one. The other one, my biggest thing that I think with like the government is like, we just need the government, like Bitcoin's going to do its thing no matter what. We just need the government to not get in the way and try to stop it. So like the last 4 years or whatever of the previous administration, like doing all this stuff to sort of attack and antagonize crypto and try to like Elizabeth Warren and all these things she's doing, debanking crypto companies and all this crazy stuff behind the scenes. That's the stuff that just like slows down Bitcoin adoption and makes it harder for merchants and makes, wallet companies shut down their app in the US because they're like afraid of being sued by the SEC and all these things. If they just don't do that, now I think that like the government's always going to make a regulation or a law about something. So you can't the regulators abhor a vacuum. So just putting in place like what this bill seems to be doing, which is just like protecting things like self-custody, which is like enshrines in law that like we have the right to self-custody Bitcoin. It's ridiculous that we need a law to tell us that, because like we already have that right, but enshrining it in law so that the next administration, whoever, can't come along and say, oh, we're going to make this illegal. You want it enshrined in law so that it makes it much harder for someone to overturn that. So things like that just enshrine sort of what should be natural, rights and protections of you just doing Bitcoin. I think another big one would be like more like legalization around. So this is like a deep rabbit hole, but the whole thing about like some people say Bitcoin is not fungible because transactions can be tracked on chain and you can see where UTXOs came from and track Bitcoin, and exchanges can basically, flag certain Bitcoin that may have, come from nefarious stuff, or like they can try to track where Bitcoin came from, and they've made it illegal for us to use things like coin joins and mixers and things like that. And so that would be the other thing that I would say is like, get rid of these laws that make it harder for you to anonymize your Bitcoin. Like if we could anonymize it more easily, then you wouldn't have any so much of this chain analytics and like being able to track things, and you wouldn't have people saying, well, it's not fungible or it's not private, because you could track all your transactions. If we could legally and freely just use coin joins and mixers and all these things, you wouldn't be worried about your privacy at all, leaking privacy, and it wouldn't be such an issue to be like, oh, like, do I want my transactions to be viewable on chain? Lightning solves that to a large degree, right? But that's another big one, I think, is like enshrining self-custody and then enshrining like things that help with on-chain privacy.
So custody, privacy, and capital gains.
Taxes.
Yeah, those are the three big
John
things.
for president.
Yeah, John, you have my Bitcoin vote right now.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
All right,
Those
I'll pull up
exact
my
things
Lightning
that-
wallet and you guys contribute to the campaign fund.
I'm in.
Wait, question for you guys. So I'm not really I don't know much about this, but so like if you have an app like let's say, I don't know which one do I have here. Let's say Speed Wallet, for example, because it's like all you have to do is just submit an email to sign up for it. So if I need to spend or transact with Bitcoin, does that mean that the government cannot tax that money because they don't really know anything about what's going on in that?
Can you explain the question? Because I'm not sure I followed it completely.
So like, in order for the government to tax your Bitcoin, right, does it have to be through an exchange like Coinbase or something that is KYC? Is that what I'm getting from this?
The way that the government, I guess you could say, spies on your Bitcoin is through the KYC exchanges. If you're doing things whenever you make a transaction on the Bitcoin network, the likelihood or the confidence level that the government has that it's still your Bitcoin becomes lower and lower and lower. So the more you use on-chain, the less amount of confidence that the government feels that they have to say, you moved your Bitcoin, you sold your Bitcoin. So what the way that it works is whenever you use a custodian or an exchange, like let's say River, Coinbase, Strike, it doesn't matter which one, and you buy or sell Bitcoin, those companies give that information to the IRS, and then the IRS will have it, and you have to report it on your taxes. So his BTC Moon guy says, "Is this tax advice?" No, I am not a tax guy. This is not tax advice. But what I am saying is, pay your taxes especially if you're using KYC, because the government will know that you got your Bitcoin. But if you wanted to, if you wanted to cheat on your taxes, I guess you could start to use things like different privacy tools, which may or may not be illegal. I'm not an expert on what's legal right now, but
thanks for the tax advice, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Even more tax advice. So it's super, super complicated as the answer, but technically you're supposed to track all the Bitcoin you bought and the cost basis of it. And if you sell it or exchange it for goods and services, that counts as selling it. And you're supposed to track whether you had a gain or a loss on that Bitcoin that you bought and when you sold it for dollars or for goods and services, which is you just buying something with it. And technically you're supposed to track whether you had a gain and pay taxes if you had a gain. Now, obviously that's ridiculously complicated, especially when it comes to you then moving on to Lightning and then buying something with it, right? Like there's no way, like that's only going to come to, it's complicated, but that's only going to come to a head if and when down the road you sell it on a KYC exchange, and then you're going to try to say, oh well, that's it like, right, like it gets very complicated. Like if I just buy Bitcoin and then use it at Stake and Shake, if I did it the same day, presumably there's no gain to report, so it doesn't matter. But if I'm using Bitcoin I bought a while ago, technically I'm supposed to report if I had a gain on that Bitcoin or a loss on it. Like, yeah, but if you're just buying something on Lightning, they're not going to know, so they're not going to be able to tell. But when it comes to the IRS, like the burden of proof is on you, not them. So if they say, we know you bought X amount of Bitcoin and now you're saying you don't have it anymore, where to go, or how'd you dispose of it, or did you have a gain on it, or whatever, like, and they may say, oh, well, you can't prove you don't have it anymore, therefore, we think you still have it. It's just, I don't know, it's very, very, very complicated, which is why we need like much less of this trying to tax Bitcoin transactions and payments stuff, because like you could really get jammed up in a weird position if you're not like paying attention to it. And the IRS is changing it to like wallet by wallet accounting. There's this whole thing this year where they were going to change the accounting methods on Bitcoin. It's very complicated.
Yeah. And last point is, if you just say that you lost your Bitcoin in a boating accident, the government might not believe you. They might say that's too bad. You better figure out a way to get it back, or else we put you in jail. So yeah, don't lie or cheat too much about Bitcoin, especially with KYC stuff.
Yeah, and I think it just shows why Bitcoin education is so important. Like on my last video, I was just talking about how the media is using political bias to get people to hate Bitcoin. And one of the comments was saying like, well, it's fine if people hate Bitcoin because it means, like I have more time to buy and stuff. It's more of an opportunity for me. But I think it's just such a slippery slope, because the more people that hate Bitcoin and don't recognize that Bitcoin is for them and freedom technology for them, then the more people will consent to people that are going to rule over Bitcoin and try to use the law to shut it down. And I think that's a lot of people right now are like will vote for people that are going to attack Bitcoin, and they don't realize how much of a infringement on freedom that is. So I just think Bitcoin education is so important for that reason.
Yeah, no, I agree. Bitcoin education is super, super important. I'm not sure that there's like a big cohort of people that hate Bitcoin, though. I think there's a big cohort of people that like negligibly like dislike it, but I don't think that there's a very hard like a bunch of like hardcore anti-Bitcoiners. I know there's a few, but
Yeah.
You're not on TikTok enough, Dan.
Are there a lot?
They hate me, dude.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, it's eye-opening for real. Because like, yeah, I agree. Like, if you're in Bitcoin spaces, like on X, or like you post on YouTube, and you might get like weird hate comments from time to time. TikTok is the #1 place where I post things and people are like, not that I get millions of comments on every video, but every video will have a handful of people who are like, you're a scammer, you're an idiot, like
Right.
this is a total Ponzi scheme, or they just every video provides an opportunity to create a new video off of it, because every video has a comment on it that's like, that's not worth anything, quantum computing is going to destroy that. Like, they're just throwing out all the FUD, but some people are like fired up, like hate it.
Yeah. And I think indifference is
media.
just as bad, right? Like people indifferent to Bitcoin, if their favorite politician, then someone who's just indifferent, their favorite politician that they like is like, well, I hate Bitcoin and we're gonna govern against it and we're gonna attack it with everything we have, with the laws. And the people that are indifferent are just gonna be like, sure, like fine, I don't have a problem with that.
But
well, the other thing too is the more we get.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to say that's what Elizabeth Warren did, and she found out really quickly that she needed to stop talking anti-Bitcoin. Yeah, she was creating her anti-Bitcoin army, or she called it the anti-crypto army, which I would actually be for an anti-crypto army. But she included Bitcoin in that, and then it lost her a lot of donations. It lost her a lot of funding. It lost her a lot of support. She still won her election, but she really quickly stopped talking about Bitcoin as soon as it ended. Like she kind of proved that it was a really bad thing to go against. Because I think that, well, at least from what I've seen, there's a lot of people that really, really love Bitcoin, and there's probably people that dislike it or think that it's a scam, but I don't think that they dislike it more than like any multi-level marketing scheme or anything like that. There's always people that will have something to yell about. But go on, Jen. I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, you're good. I'll say the same. Like I think that the hating Bitcoin thing is a Bitcoin crypto conflation issue. Like mostly the people who hate Bitcoin, it's because they don't see or refuse to see that Bitcoin and crypto are two different things. So mostly it's people who are like, oh, they see the meme coin thing or the scam thing or the Hawk Tuah girl, or they watch CoffeeZilla, or like they see Trump and his Trump coin. Like this, that's what gets people fired up. They think Trump launching a meme coin and scamming people with that, they conflate all that with Bitcoin, and then they hate all of it, and then it's, oh, Bitcoin, oh, you're a scammer too. Like that, I think, is the biggest thing where they're conflating all of it together. Because the irony of all these arguments is like you could have some person being like, oh, the other place to go, Dan, if you really want to know people hate Bitcoin, is the Buttcoin subreddit. If you've never seen the Buttcoin subreddit, like if you're on Reddit, oh, you haven't heard of it? Okay, so if you're on Reddit, there's a Bitcoin subreddit, but Reddit, either because it thinks the two things are the same, or because it's engagement farming you for it's rage baiting you, because it knows it will show you the Buttcoin subreddit, which is the people who hate Bitcoin, and they have their own subreddit, and they are loud and proud, like nonstop, just like constantly posting like how much they hate Bitcoin. It's like over 100,000 people, and there's like I'm actually convinced that there's like a mod there who basically it's like all this one mod who like hates Bitcoin like to his core and spends all his time like making content and writing comments and blocking people and stuff. But they really hate it with a deep passion. But one of the biggest things is like you can never have an argument with these people because they think Bitcoin and crypto are the same thing. So like when they're like, oh, well, scams and meme coins and this and that, and you're like, yeah, I know, I agree. Like, I agree with you about all the criticisms of crypto. That's the irony. Like, we're on the same team, and then you think Bitcoin is the same as that, and I'm like, no, Bitcoin is like the exact opposite of that. So, yeah.
Maybe Josh, you can read off a Buttcoin subreddit post in your angry voice.
Oh, dude, they'll find our stream, and then they'll clip it, and then they'll post it on their subreddit about how dumb we are.
Hey. Okay.
Yeah, man, bring it on.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys experience this, but I find that there is like a silent, salty, bitter hater group that don't really say anything to you, but they hate that you bought Bitcoin and you told them about it like a long time ago. But there's a sort of silent Bitcoin haters. And actually, when they see negative Bitcoin content, they love it. Not because they actually agree with it, because it makes them feel good that they didn't buy Bitcoin. So they're like getting with some other people and just like letting their salty tears just wash together with theirs. And then it doesn't feel so bad. I feel like that is a large majority of people who don't want to learn about Bitcoin, and they like all the negative FUD that we see from like Senator Warren. That kind of just makes me sad, because you think you heard about Bitcoin, you could just find out about it instead of being bitter, but you're kind of just jealous, or you hate that you didn't buy it at the price when you saw it at like $16,000 or whatever. That for me is like a majority of people that they never say it, but you can't quantify it, but you feel like there's like a group of people out there and they're just like hate you because you bought Bitcoin at a bit cheaper than they could have bought Bitcoin.
Yeah. You know what they call that, Miles? They call it the saltiness index. So no, it's a real thing. So I forget who talks about it, but basically the earlier on that you learned about Bitcoin and refused to buy it when you clearly had an opportunity to buy some, the more likely you are to really, really hate Bitcoin, because you need to create some sort of like mental defense mechanism in your head as to why you didn't pick up that winning lottery ticket.
Yeah.
So that's called the saltiness index. Flourish with Annie. She says you guys are the new Dave Ramsey for our generation. That's an amazing
crazy.
comment, by the way. I love that. It's like, and all the advice is really simple. That we have, it's buy Bitcoin. Like that's like the only advice. But that's all the advice you really need. Buy Bitcoin, spend less than you make. Done.
Do you have another topic you want to hit on, Josh, before we finish?
Yeah, we did have one more news topic, which was the China miners moving to the USA, which is a cool story.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what kind of security risk that brings. Like, I don't know whether it's the same as then processing all of the internet in data centers, moving through, all the traffic from the internet. That would be more of a concern. But is there any, security fear about China mining, some companies mining some Bitcoin? I don't know.
I don't really have any fears. So can someone explain this to me? So right now, the rig makers are moving to the United States, so the people who actually make the Bitcoin mining setups. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's because of the tariffs and the costs on importing the parts for the mining rigs.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't really care how, where Bitcoin gets mined. I think that realistically and hopefully it will be, distributed throughout the entire world. But yeah.
Yeah. The biggest thing strictly making them in the US, I don't know if it's necessarily that big of a deal that is a change. But I knew some of this about this before, but also the whole Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Knots, spam debate that's been going on has also illuminated more and more of this stuff to me. Like the biggest things I think we need, two of the biggest centralization risks right now in Bitcoin are one, like the node implementation, which is Bitcoin Core having too much control. Potentially, and the other one is mining centralization is like a huge issue, and one of the issues amongst that is those three companies that you're looking at right there. Bitmain, by far the biggest one, makes 80-something% of the mining equipment of the ASIC miners. Bitmain makes like 80-something%, and those three together make like 90%. So there's a big centralization issue around who makes the ASIC mining equipment, which is not good. And then the even bigger issue is Bitcoin mining pools and how big and centralized they are, and how much they can potentially influence or have some degree of control or could have malicious influence over the network because the pools are getting so big. And Bitmain, I think, is a pool and the ASIC maker. So I don't know. Anything that decentralizes any of that is a good thing. So if some of the equipment being made in a different country helps, but what we really need is more companies making ASIC miners and mining equipment. And what we really need is more decentralization of mining itself, smaller pools, and even within the pools, people being able to make their own templates so that the miner doesn't control doesn't control the node implementation of the mining pool. I'm getting a little bit out of my depth there, but those are the biggest things. Like we need decentralization around that a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, block template centralization, like Forrest just said. That's what ocean mining is trying to solve, where you can mine with a pool, but not have centralization around the template. You can choose your own mining template, which means I could choose the filters and settings or whatever that I want in my node implementation, not the pool being the only one who chooses it for every miner in the whole pool.
I'll kind of say two reasons, or speak 2 seconds about why I'm not really worried about the decentralization aspect of it. One of the things that Forrest did has been doing was he's been showing everyone how to run their own node implementation, right? And that's been going really, really well. And with this whole core knots debate that everyone is talking about, to me, what it's really showing is whenever there's even the potential for something to start looking shady, people will move away from the shadiness onto something that looks more legitimate. And that's exactly what you're seeing with Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Knots. We're seeing Bitcoin Core doing some things that don't look very good, and people are not upgrading. People are moving away from Bitcoin Core altogether, and it's keeping the health of the Bitcoin network very, intact. And when it comes to Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin mining pools, I kind of feel like it's the same way. As soon as any mining pool would start doing something a little bit nefarious, even if it's not completely nefarious, just a little bit nefarious, you're going to see almost everyone move the hell out of those mining pools and go on to a good one. So that's all that to say, I'm not really worried about it. What does Forrest say? The infighting in Bitcoin is a good thing. It scares inexperienced plebs, but it's a positive. Yeah, I would agree with that. We don't want everyone in in Bitcoin to, follow the same one-track mind. There's a lot of differences in opinions. I know even in between us, I'm sure we have a lot of differences in opinions, but it just keeps Bitcoin healthy, and it keeps showing that Bitcoin is for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely like the best thing to come out of the whole Bitcoin Core debate is because the bigger problem would be if the whole thing happens and then you don't see people moving away from Core, and then you're like, oh, Core does have the power to do whatever they want and no one's gonna stop them, right? Like, but the more we see the signal that okay, people aren't just gonna sit by and let whatever happens happen, then the more you see, okay, this is a robust system that does have its ability have the things we say in theory, which is, oh, Bitcoin Core doesn't control Bitcoin, but what happens if Bitcoin Core does something malicious? Not, whether you agree that this what they've done is malicious or not is a different thing. But what happens if Bitcoin Core does something that people think is malicious? Do people switch, or is there more new notifications that get built, etc., to make it actually show that in practice it's decentralized, not just in theory? So I agree that's the best outcome.
And it's proving to be as decentralized as possible. It's proving that it does, like, no one can take. Yes, John, you're right.
Yeah, and what makes Bitcoin great is that we can do our part to make it slightly more decentralized by running our own nodes or even running our own miners, right? That's like one of the only systems where you can do that. You see a problem and you can just vote with your resources and take part in that system.
Yeah, and if you want to vote, go set up your own node. Done deal. That's all you need.
Yeah, I think that
and it's funny because I was gonna say, like, and it's crazy because, like, before all that argument between Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Nuts, I knew I was gonna run a node eventually, but I was always like postponing that. But like now I'm like a lot more serious about doing that. I'm like, okay, maybe I should really, I should really want to know. This it's becoming more important for me now. So yeah.
I think that kind of ties into this question, which was, what happens if millionaires buy up most of the Bitcoin before regular people understand it?
Yeah. Then we have the exact same society that we have today, except a little bit better because the rich people can't print their own money. Now they're bound to the same rules as everyone else. So, and I think that's exactly what's happening. I think rich people are buying more Bitcoin on average than poor people. And Bitcoin doesn't solve inequality. It just makes the entire world fair. And there's a big difference in between the two things.
Yeah.
And even the people who are last to Bitcoin will still benefit from Bitcoin because their purchasing power is still gonna increase over time. So, they still have a chance to fight for freedom.
Yeah. And I think
go ahead, sorry.
And I think that's why we're all here, right? Sorry. We're all here to educate people on Bitcoin, right? We're here to, even in our small ways, right, to get as many people as possible to understand Bitcoin and adopt it before all of it is purchased by bigger entities. So in the same way that you can do your part making the network itself more decentralized by running a node or a miner, we can do our part here by trying to educate people about Bitcoin so we can try to solve this problem as much as possible.
Sorry, Miles, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, Ralph, that maybe to this lady, is it Flourish with Annie, that Bitcoin then becomes more of, it's not going to 100x. It becomes more of a pristine savings technology. And I think that's what I try and say to my friends at the moment. Don't look at this like you're going to buy Apple stock or one of the FANG stocks. Just save your money in Bitcoin. It becomes a savings technology rather than trying to get rich really fast. And I think that, even if a lot of people who are very wealthy own a lot of the Bitcoin network, what Ralph is saying is correct, that it just becomes a way to preserve your purchasing power. And I think that eventually Bitcoin will move towards that, and that will become the narrative around it, as opposed to charts showing that it's going to get to a certain price by a certain date. I mean, once we pass those dates in the next 20 years, I think the charts are not going to be as impressive, and people, the sound money advocates will then become more yeah, I think the sound money advocates will be the people who are in Bitcoin now, who then potentially become wealthy and then replace, as the old guard die, the new guard come in and replace those seats of power, and hopefully that'll be replaced with some Bitcoins. And if they're already millionaires, that's fine. If they're into sound money, then I would support those people. So
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys covered it pretty much, right? But I think the what happens if question, the answer is more related to what's your fear around that. So it depends what you're saying. What happens? What's your fear around what happened? Like, will other people not be able to get any Bitcoin at all? I mean, the short answer I think is right now you have to create value in the world with your labor and get fiat, and then you have to exchange that fiat for Bitcoin. Now, if you want Bitcoin in the future, and there probably there's no price at which you can't exchange fiat for Bitcoin. So you'll just get less and less Bitcoin for your fiat. But you'll probably then, if millionaires have all the Bitcoin, you'll just have to create value in the world for one of those millionaires and get them to give you Bitcoin in exchange for it. So you'll be working for Bitcoin to try to get some of it, is one potential short answer. But the other thing is, like, there is no price at which you can't, until Bitcoin completely hyper Bitcoinizes and fiat completely goes to zero. You can still exchange fiat for some smaller and smaller amount of Bitcoin, but it doesn't matter, because the point of Bitcoin is, because it's hard money and sound money, it captures the deflationary nature of technology and of productivity gains. So as humans and the robots and the AIs, and we all get more and more productive and create more output from less input, prices fall in terms of a currency that's fixed. Prices don't fall in terms of a currency that supply expands, which is fiat. But if you have some amount of Bitcoin, or you work for Bitcoin, you still accrue the benefit of productivity gains of society if you hold that Bitcoin. So that benefit doesn't stop. There's no point at which that stops happening. So as long as you can get your hands on Bitcoin, whether you're exchanging fiat for it or working for it, and then that Bitcoin continues to gain in value in purchasing power terms as human and robot productivity advances and prices fall in terms of that fixed currency. So it's not really this zero-sum thing of, well, there's no more Bitcoin for me to get, or I lose out on the benefits of Bitcoin.
Yeah, well said.
That's fair.
Yeah, get your friends to buy Bitcoin, and sum it up.
Yeah, the only solution is you need to get some before all the millionaires could get it up. You need to get some. Go get some.
Anything else, Josh? Any other topics?
I think we covered the main stuff. There was a few comments. I don't know if we want to get to those or wrap it up.
Yeah, let's get to one or two comments. I know we're a little bit past an hour.
Yeah. Let's see what we got.
And these are the mean comments people have been posting on our YouTube videos.
Here we go.
I'm afraid to bring this person up, man. They're gonna John Hinckley my ass, dude. I'm kind of afraid of them, to be honest. But my favorite part was at the bottom. This is a court of law. No, this person was really mad. Like, they left a few different comments on a few of my different videos, and they were just really mad, and they really wanted to know how much Bitcoin I own and what price did I buy it.
Really?
I don't know what me revealing that would tell them. I think they think that I'm just shilling my bags. So I'm like, oh, I guess I need to offload my bags, and me making YouTube videos that get 300 views is gonna pump the price so much that I'm gonna be able to unload my bags on unsuspecting dummies, so that I can get out and make money. That's what they think my evil plan is.
Dude, so this guy's, what's he called? Lexapro Ritalin. Bro, this guy needs to double his like intake.
John, you want to read it out loud?
This was just one of many comments he left, where he said, "Get to the point. How much do you own, and what price did you buy it at? Answer." And then I said, "You seem super chill." And he said, "Don't lie or change the subject. How much Bitcoin do you own, and at what price did you buy?" And then he said, "This is a court of law."
Yeah. I hope he doesn't. John Hinckley, I'm assuming that's someone that shot someone or something like that.
John Hinckley tried to murder Ronald Reagan because to impress Jodie Foster.
Well, hopefully he's
Jesus.
not also trying to impress Jodie Foster.
That is wild.
All right.
Yeah. Lexapro Ritalin guy, buy some Bitcoin. You'll be happy in the long run.
Yeah, go for a walk as well. Man.
All right. Anything else?
Nah, man. I think the other thing about Bitcoin too is like that I'm most exciting for is not just the number go up technology, but the media of exchange for sure. Because the sooner we can get to doing that, the better it is for humanity, man. So yeah, can't wait for that, man.
All right. So we'll wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for hopping on, and see you guys next Wednesday.
Cool. Good time, guys.
Yeah, thanks, y'all.